All right, hello everyone, and welcome to this short presentation on the vacation rental digital marketing benchmarks that you should be hitting in 2022 and beyond. So this is a fun presentation. It was a lot of data and research it took to get all this information in one place, but I think the insights and things that we pull away from it are going to be educational for you. So we love lists. We love top 10 lists. In fact, if you go into Google and you just put the keyword top 10 in, 5.1 billion results come back from Google. The reason for that is because we love talking about lists, right? The top 10 actresses, the top 10 movies, the top 10 quarterbacks, right? We love lists because it allows us to rank things in order. It's very logical. It's very structured. We can say this person's number one, this thing is number two, this object is the number three, and it draws our minds to it. But the reality is that in the context of vacation rental management, it's very difficult to be a top 10 manager or to have the 10 best properties or to always deliver a top 10 experience or the best experience in your market. It's very difficult. In fact, as you begin to think about your marketing metrics, I would argue that it makes a lot more sense to think of it more like a report card. We go into a class and we may learn, with our peers, and multiple people in that class can get an A+. It's not that if my coworker or my colleague or my student next to me gets an A+, I cannot also get an A+. So mastering a subject or becoming knowledgeable about it means that I can get a good grade in a report card. I think that when you think about marketing and how you're grading your own marketing efforts, you shouldn't think, oh, I need to be the best in the world at this. That's probably a lofty goal that's not necessarily attainable. Instead, I would argue it makes a lot more sense to think of your marketing like a report card. How is my social media performing? Is it an F? Is it an A? Is it a C? How is my email marketing doing? What's the grade that I'm getting there? How am I doing with organic search? And so on. So when you apply this report card philosophy to what you're hoping to accomplish and what you're hoping to do with your vacation rental marketing, I think it makes a lot more sense to grade your performance, grade what you're doing based on this report card metrics. So there's no one data point that tells the whole story about what it is to be good at vacation rental marketing or what it is to get good results from your direct marketing efforts. The obvious one that you might say is how many direct bookings does a vacation rental company actually get? That may be an interesting data point to look at, but it does not tell the whole story. We may not know, for example, how many properties they have. We may not know what their other investments are on other channels. We may not know what they paid to acquire those direct bookings relative to the cost to acquiring them on listing sites like Airbnb and VRBO or Vrbo. So there's not one data point that tells the whole story of your vacation rental digital marketing or the digital marketing for your company that gets direct bookings. Instead, I think that as we talk a little bit more in this presentation, a lot of the data points that you see and you look at are more like compasses. So they tell you, as you look at the numbers, if you're headed in the right direction or headed in the wrong direction, but they don't necessarily tell you that you've arrived. So for example, if there was hidden treasure out there from a pirate and we knew that it was north of where we were, the compass doesn't tell us once we've got to the hidden treasure. It just tells us if we're headed in the right path. If we're supposed to be going north or west or east or south, the compass points us in the right direction. So again, as we think about the structure for your vacation rental marketing and how you're hoping to achieve your results, a lot of the numbers that we'll talk about, it's not that I can tell you this is what your number should be, but instead I think it makes a lot more sense to say, here's what the average is, here's how you're doing, how can we get closer to the direction of where the average or beat the average is with things like conversion rate or traffic sources or things like that. If we haven't met before, hello, my name is Conrad O'Connell. I'm based in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'm the founder of a digital marketing agency called Build Up Bookings. That is a picture of me and my daughter, not my only child, just the cutest one. So I thought I would put her in there as we get going here. All right, so why this data? So in collecting all of this information to put this presentation together, we exported lots and lots of different data points, lots and lots of different sources, and we had to limit it, right? Because when you log into analytics, you can literally download anything. You can download page views, you can download sessions, you could download users, you could download unique sessions, you could download traffic by source, you could download traffic by location, right? There's quite literally hundreds, and once you combine it with things like dates and segments, there's pretty much an infinite number of combinations of data that we could collect. So when we were starting to put this data together to create these marketing benchmarks, we wanted to pick very specific data points that were going to map and make a lot of sense no matter what market you're in, no matter how many properties you have, no matter what your budget is. The numbers that we're going to talk about here, I think, map to each of those different areas, each of that different intent or audiences that you may be serving if you're in the vacation rental or short-term rental space. So the questions that we wanted to answer that we feel are most common when someone comes to us and needs help with their marketing is they want to know, where are guests coming from when they come to on a website and they're ready to book? What sort of actions are they taking once they get there? What are they looking for When they come on the site, what specific properties, what specific information, what specific data, or do they use to arrive at a conclusion and pick a property? And then how often do they take the action we want them to take? What's the action we want them to take, you may ask? Well, we want them to make an online booking. That's the ideal outcome for us from a conversion standpoint. We actually want them to go through the whole booking funnel and book on our website directly. If we're trying to reduce our dependence on OTAs, Airbnb, Vrbo, etc., the action we want them to take is, of course, making a booking on our website. So when you're thinking about your marketing, you want to map everything back to those numbers, right? How are people coming in? What actions are they taking? And then how can I measure that and improve it over time? So we set out to collect and aggregate this data. We wanted to take all the clients that we've worked with over the years, current clients, former clients that we've had the opportunity to do projects for, download all this information, put it in one place, and create some benchmarks and averages that we could then share with future clients or people that we work with so that we can let them know if they are on track or off track with what they're trying to achieve. So after we downloaded everything and brought everything into the fold, here is what we gathered. So the first thing that we exported is page views. Now, just to be clear on what a page view is, inside of Google Analytics, a page view is one view of a specific kind of URL or page on your website. So one session, meaning one person coming to your website, could lead to many page views. Let's say, for example, someone comes in on the homepage, they do a date search, and they click on 3 property detail pages. That's 5 page views. Homepage, search results, 3 property detail pages, but it's only one session. So page views is generally, in our experience, a bit of a measure of engagement, meaning how many people are actually going through the site and using it. If you have a very low page view count relative to the number of people coming to the site, that tells you that people just aren't that engaged. They just don't care that much. They come in, they look at maybe one property, maybe 2 properties, and then they leave. So that's not the type of person that's actually interested in really booking if they're not finding and seeing what they're looking for. So we wanted to gather page views because it would be a wide sample size and it would allow us to see how engaged people are when they actually make a direct booking on a vacation rental website. So the number of page views that we collected was just a shade under 40 million. So this is all of 2021. There's 39,248,000 page views that we collected, exported, and analyzed as part of the study when we were creating these benchmarks. So pretty decent sample size. All right, number 2, we looked at the source and medium of where the traffic is coming from. So inside of Google Analytics, again, there's these measurements, source, medium. They mean slightly different things. I'll explain them both very quickly. The source is where the actual website is that's getting that traffic over to you. The medium is the way in which that website sent the traffic to you. So for example, there's a paid component of Google Ads. There's an organic component of Google, which is the organic or free search results. And the source of those is the same, right? People coming from Google. But the medium, the way they got there, is pretty different, right? The way that you do well with SEO, the way that you get more organic traffic is not the same process or interface or steps needed in order to do well and get results with Google Ads. A lot of the platforms out there that a lot of the data that we exported fell into, for example, Facebook, Instagram, Google, there's a free component and a paid component to that particular platform or to that particular site. So exporting both source and medium data was valuable because we could split the difference between Google Ads traffic and Google organic traffic when it came to creating some of the benchmarks and some of the data that we're talking about here today. So the next thing we collected was online bookings conversion rate. So what that looks at is how many people come to the site, actually take that action we want them to take. So in this case, again, online bookings would be someone who came through and completed the entire booking process on your website directly. Now, like we were saying earlier, this is the holy grail. This is the best outcome for getting a direct booking on the website. But there's a lot of other factors that may influence someone's ability to actually convert before they take that final step. We'll talk about those in just a minute, but this was one of our key data points that we wanted to collect, was looking at the conversion rate of people who come to the site and how many actually make an online booking. And then, of course, most critically of all, we looked at the number of online bookings that were generated by our clients in 2021, and that number is just a little bit under 13,000. Pretty solid number. We also looked at leads, so how many people filled out a contact form, how many people left their email address behind. It could be in a newsletter sign up, it could be in a property inquiry form. There's a lot of different places on a lot of vacation rental websites that we work on where there's an opportunity for someone to leave their email address. So we call these just leads. To aggregate them together, we call them leads, and we exported and tracked the number of data points here on the leads, the number of email leads that came through, and that number was 36,917. So as you can see, there's a pretty direct correlation between, maybe it takes 3 or 4 leads to actually get one booking as it relates to the conversion rate of the website themselves. All right, so from a revenue standpoint, we also looked at online direct bookings that occurred. So just to be very clear on what this does and does not include, this would not include anything from Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com. No OTAs were included in this data set. We're strictly looking at online direct bookings that occurred on our clients' websites. in all of 2021, and we're looking at the dollar amount, the revenue amount, gross bookings that occurred. Obviously, everyone has a slightly different commission, so we're not taking that into account. Some clients we work with have 15% commissions, some clients we work with have 50% commissions, and everything in between. So we're just looking at that top number, what's the total gross booking value that we analyzed and reviewed, and then you may have to do some math on your side to see how this might actually correlate to your revenue. But this being the big number, $48 million, this is shade under $49 million in direct bookings that we were able to analyze and review that occurred in 2021. So we think this is a pretty strong sample size to start to draw some conclusions from. The data set was pretty large. It encompasses sites that are both in like beach markets, leisure markets, lakes, mountains, beaches. It also includes data points that are more traditional short-term rental markets. It also includes markets that are not traditional short-term rental markets in the sense of leisure travel. So it includes some urban data in here as well. So it's not just vacation rentals, it's also short-term rentals in terms of those that are not necessarily made just for pure leisure, but more for functional travel and things like that. This data guides us to, in my view, some pretty interesting conclusions about what's going on in the marketplace, how stuff is performing, what the actual conversion rate is on average, and where kind of the numbers are at. So this was really valuable for me to collect, honestly, because now when we're having conversations with other vacation rental managers and they say, hey, my conversion rate is this, they want to know, am I doing well? Am I doing okay? Am I doing poorly? Whatever the case may be. Now we can give that number a little bit more context and give some data to really back up our claims. So if you've seen some of the numbers that we're going to talk about in the next minute or two, congratulations, you're normal. Now you may not want to be normal. You probably want to be exceptional. You want to be above normal. Going back to our commentary from earlier, you probably want to get an A+, not a C or a D or an F. But again, these are the numbers that we saw in our data set, and I think this is a good context for actually showing the performance of direct booking sites in general. So, drum roll, please. Okay, so my first takeaway that I thought was particularly valuable to know is that 62% of online direct bookings come from organic search and mostly Google. So when we say organic search, obviously there's other search engines other than Google, but they make up a minority of the traffic. When I say minority, Google was like 95%. And then there's a little bit of Bing, a little bit of DuckDuckGo, a little bit of things like Yahoo and other kind of very tiny search engines, but the overwhelming majority of the traffic that comes in is from Google as far as the organic search channel goes, and this is the number one direct booking source. So if you're watching this presentation, if you're trying to learn something from this presentation and this takeaway, if you're trying to get more direct bookings, all the successful companies that are getting a lot of direct bookings do so through Google. Google is king, queen, court jester, president, vice president, right, as far as direct bookings coming through to vacation rental managers. The reason for this is pretty obvious in my view, but I think just to paint some context or paint some extra flavor on top of it, the reason for that is that Google traffic always has the highest intent, right? So there are a lot of people come to your website in different ways, but someone coming from Google, they're specifically looking for what you have to offer. If that search intent matches what you have to offer, you could see a pretty clear path to conversion, right? When someone goes into Google and searches for pet-friendly rentals in Destin, Florida, you're in Destin, Florida, you have pet-friendly rentals, they land on your page, then it's just more a matter of, do they have the right home that fits their needs? Does your rates match their budget? That sort of thing. But they're really far down in that conversion path when someone comes to you from Google in terms of how they're thinking and what action they're trying to take. We're going to talk about some other channels that have a very low conversion rate, and it's because of the way that they use the way that the guest is actually using the website. So just to recap again, this one really quickly, 62% of online direct bookings come from organic search. And of course, organic search is dominated by Google. Just 2% of online direct bookings come from social media channels as the last click. So you may be saying, are you saying that social media doesn't work? No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that people don't go on social media and click over and book in that same browsing session. So think of social media like your modern billboard. Think of it as your brand awareness. Think of it as an investment that you're making so that more people are aware of your company, but don't necessarily think about it as I'm going to be able to put a promotion on Facebook right here and get a booking right away on the other side, meaning people clicking over to your website. The data tells us that does not occur very commonly. Most of the time, people are on social, they see the branding, they see the messaging, they remember you, and then they actually, in some cases, search. They go back to Google to search later on, and then they book that way. So social can absolutely drive brand awareness. It can absolutely drive, quality visitors back to your site. It can help guests remember you. There's a lot of benefits of social media, but it's not the place that people go to actually make a booking. Any sort of advertising that you do on social media is interruption advertising, right? They're on social probably to be entertained or to keep up with friends and family, celebrity news, political news, whatever the case may be, and then your ad is sort of inserted in the middle. So you can build some brand awareness from that. You can get results from that. We do for our clients all the time, but it's not necessarily something where you're going to see people clicking over from social and making a booking right away. Again, the data set that we analyzed here, $40 million worth, says that 2% of those bookings occurred from social media as the last click. And that's Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, all the major social platforms out there. Okay, so the average sessions to booking conversion rate is less than 1%, 0.8%. So that means that if you get 100 people to your website, it's very likely, in fact, the average site would not get a single conversion in that scenario. They would drive 100 people to the site, and they actually have not got enough people yet to get a single conversion yet, a single online booking. In fact, the number might be more like 120 or 130 people come to your site. It's fair to expect one booking on average. Depending on how the numbers work out for your particular business, you may feel like this is very low, you may feel like it's very high, it may seem right to you, but this is what the data told us across tens of millions of sessions in 2021, and this was a great year for vacation rentals, right, as far as demand goes. Most people who come to the site don't book, we know that, but here's the raw numbers of what that actually worked itself out to be. 100 people come to your site, and on average, you're not going to get a single booking. It's going to take a little bit more than that on average to actually see one direct booking on your website. So when you talk about optimizing for traffic and you talk about optimizing for improving these numbers, this is something to look at and say, how can I get my site to convert at 1% or 2%? So that when I'm driving traffic into my website, more people are actually going through the process, more people are putting in dates, more people are actually making an online booking. Now, direct traffic, this is going to get a little confusing, so I'll define it to the best of my ability. Direct traffic is credited with 22% of direct bookings. But what direct traffic is a little bit, what it should be in analytics is that someone goes in, types in www.yourvacationrentalcompany.com, hits enter. That's what direct traffic is supposed to be. But it's not really the case. What I like to say is direct traffic is where attribution goes to die. I heard that from someone, I forget who, but what I mean by that is that people may come to your website in many different ways, and it doesn't get credited with any particular channel or source, but it wasn't that they just remembered your domain name and typed it in. That does occur sometimes, but there's a lot of dark sources of ways that people find your site. One example that we've tested extensively on some of our client websites is this idea behind people sending property detail page links with their family through a text message. So if you're like me, you're in an iMessage with all your family members. If you were planning a trip with all your family members and you went to a vacation rental website, grabbed that link, pasted that link into a message, and then hit send to everybody, you're about to get a bunch of visitors, 10, 20 visitors to your website. They're all going to say direct, but really it was kind of more of a share that occurred, that drove that person back to your site. So it's kind of one of those things where direct kind of sops up a lot of credit for conversions that happen probably in other ways, or sharing that's occurring, or someone just remembering your brand coming back, or someone switching devices from a mobile to a desktop and just things not working properly. So a lot of the direct bookings that get credited to direct traffic didn't probably occur that way, but there's limitations within the tracking ability that we have within analytics. Not a perfect system by any means. It's just the best thing that we have that we can look at to measure results. So if you see a lot of your bookings being marked as direct traffic, it probably means a good thing. People are sharing your links. People are coming back to your site directly. They know you. They trust your brand. They're coming back. That's a good thing. But it's one of those things where you want to be careful about, there's not a lot you can do to make this improve or doing it. There's not an actionable marketing technique to get more direct traffic. It's more about leveraging these other channels like Google search, whether that's organic or paid, social, email, etc., to get more direct bookings. Now that we've gone through some of those takeaways, I would turn the question to you and say, can you tell me how your numbers stack up? If not, then there's probably some homework for you to do. Number one, I would say is as you apply these insights to your vacation rental company, some of the vacation rental managers that we've worked with are missing some key, valuable, important data. They actually don't have this tracking on the website at all in the first place, so they don't actually know how many people are coming to the site. They don't know what actions they're taking. They don't even know if they're actually booking on the website. They don't have e-commerce tracking set up. So if you're missing some of the basics, certainly go back and start there. Do what you can within the framework of your PMS or your website or your system to make sure that you can have analytics, you can have e-commerce tracking so that you can see the results that are coming in. Make sure that you can click or you can track where people are coming from. So as they move through a booking process, can you see they initially came in through this channel, now they're coming in through other channels? You want to be able to monitor that with some of the attribution tracking that's built into Google Analytics. And then you also want to be able to track leads, or what's the first conversion that occurred before they later booked directly on my website. Was it that paid search actually leads to a lot of leads? It sometimes doesn't lead to as many conversions from a credit standpoint, but it led to that a lot of that top of funnel traffic that people are coming in and looking at your properties, looking at what you have to offer before they actually make that reservation or make that booking on your website directly. So if you're trying to have success with your direct marketing efforts going forward, I think you should be able to answer these questions in an easy, straightforward way. Number one, where your bookings are coming from, what source, what channel, how are they finding my website before they actually make that online reservation. Number two, what's the conversion rate of those different traffic sources? So if they're coming from, for example, Google search, I know they're going to convert at 2%. If they're coming from social, they're going to convert at 0.02%. Knowing what that is, knowing what to invest in is a good thing for you to actually build the right plan and the right path for your business and your marketing investment going forward. Number three, you know how to measure brand growth and awareness. So one thing that we didn't touch on yet is this idea behind people actually searching for your brand. Now, your brand is never likely going to be as notable as a brand. When you think of brand, you might think of like Coca-Cola or Nike or Ford. That's not really what your brand is trying to do. You're most likely trying to be relevant in a single market or in a small feeder market. So if you're in, for example, Destin, Florida, you might care about your brand being known about people who live in Atlanta, Georgia, because people might travel from Atlanta to Destin to stay in one of your vacation rental properties. You want people in Atlanta or that area to know about you. So an easy way to measure brand growth and awareness is see how many people are actually searching for the name of your company. It sounds simple, but the clients that we've worked with that have the highest direct booking percentages are the ones that have a significant amount of people each and every month searching for the name of their company. Again, the way they do that usually is they do a great job with the guests that they do book. They take care of them, so they want to come back. When they want to come back, what do? They go to Google and they search for the name of that particular vacation rental company. They hit enter. Sometimes people find your brand through other means. Maybe they happen to find you on Airbnb. They happen to find you on VRBO. Maybe they don't like the fees. Maybe they want to find you that way. So doing some kind of digital billboarding is one way to actually get people to search for your brand. And build awareness. You can run ads, you can create video content. We have clients now experimenting with kind of newer channels to some degree, like TikTok. You can build brand awareness through lots of different ways, and measuring it, I think, is a critical way to see if you're headed in the right direction and if people are searching for your brand more and your company more and more, and those are always going to be the cheapest leads to acquire. Anyone who searches for the name of your company, comes on your website and books directly, your cost to acquire them was effectively zero. So those are always going to be the best things for you to do, is make those long-term investments so that 2-3 years down the road, you have thousands of people every single month searching for your company, and you're going to get a significant amount of direct bookings just from that one activity alone. And then fourth, you can measure your data across digital marketing investments. If you invest $1,000 a month into Google Ads, you should be able to measure how many people are actually making it through that booking funnel and converting on the backside of that. Again, that ties back into what we said earlier about conversion rates and tracking and things like that. So congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time and attention. This was fun to put together. It was fun to export all this data and look at all the spreadsheets and move everything together. If this was helpful, obviously I'd like to hear about it. Feel free to email me, Conrad@buildupbookings.com. Really appreciate your time and attention, and I will see you next time.